character comes to mind when you think of having faith in Jehovah's promises? We're going to look at the example, that of Abraham. But that raises another question. How did he display his faith? Jehovah actually made multiple promises. Let's look at a big example in the Bible book of Genesis, chapter 15 and verse 4 and 5. But before we look at that, here's a little background information on the chapter. In the beginning of the chapter, Abraham is talking to Jehovah about if the servant Eliezer would succeed him as heir. The promise there is that Abraham will have a son, and he will... Oh, let's read that. Genesis 15, 4 and 5. But look, Jehovah's word in reply to him was, "This man will not succeed you as heir, but your own son will succeed you as heir." He now brought him outside and said, "Look up, please, to the heavens, and count the stars. If you are able to do so." Then he said to him, "So your offspring will become." Okay, so in the beginning of the chapter, the promise there is that Abraham will have a son, and he will succeed him as heir. Now let's look at the results of that promise. In chapter 21, of the same chapter, or same book, and we're going to look at verse 12. 21, Genesis 21:12 says, "Then God said to Abraham, 'Do not be displeased by what Sarah is saying to you about the boy and about your slave girl. Listen to her, for what will be called your offspring will be through Isaac.'" Why does this have special importance? The Bible tells us that he had a son previously with the servant Hagar, meaning it was Abraham's son, but not Sarah's biological son. But Isaac was both Sarah's and Abraham's biological son. That is why all the offspring will be through Isaac instead of Ishmael, Abraham's other son. Let's look at an example of Abraham's displaying of faith in the same book of Genesis, but we're going to look at chapter 22. And let's look at 9 through 12 first. It says, "Finally, they reached the place that the true God had indicated, and Abraham built an altar there and arranged the wood on it. He bound his son Isaac hand and foot and put him on the altar on top of the wood. Then Abraham reached out his hand and took a knife to kill his son. But Jehovah's angel called to him from the heavens and said, 'Abraham, Abraham,' to which he answered, 'Here I am.' Then he said, 'Do not harm the boy, and do not do anything at all to him, for I do know that you are God-fearing, because you have not withheld your son, your only one, from me.'" And so his actions displayed faith in putting trust in God for having him. His actions displayed faith with putting trust in God for God having him offer up his son. But that's not the only way he displayed his faith. Also, he put faith in the resurrection. Now look at 17 and 18. Genesis 22, 17 and 18. "I will surely bless you, and I will surely multiply your offspring, like the stars of the heavens and like the grains of the sand on the seashore. And your offspring will take possession of the gate of his enemies. And by means of your offspring, all nations of the earth will obtain a blessing for themselves, because you have listened to my voice." And so these verses are the consequences of his displaying faith in Jehovah, and his displaying his faith. In verse 17 it says, "I will surely bless you and multiply your offspring." Like Abraham, if we show faith in God's promises, we'll get rewards not only now, but also in the future.